Hello, friends. Our topic today is Robert Browning, a Victorian poet. So he was an interesting person. I mean, his career, at least, was very interesting because he didn't become very famous until very late in his life, and his poems were famous mostly for a specific method that he used, which was called dramatic monologue. So, if you know from your drama classes, a monologue is a speech which is made by a certain character to himself, and he used this method. And he applied it to his poems, to almost all of his poems, actually. So that's called a dramatic monologue. That's what makes Robert Browning a famous poet. Okay, we have three poems by him for our class. So they are My Last Duchess, Porphyria's Lover, and Soliloquy of the Spanish Cloister. Okay, and they all fit this saying. They all fit this dramatic monologue idea. Okay, let's start. Yes, so Robert Browning. Porphyria's Lover, Soliloquy of the Spanish Cloister, and My Last Duchess are our poems for today. Okay, so he was born in 1812 in London, and he died in 1889 in Venice, in Italy. Like I've said, he was noted for his master of dramatic monologue, and the dramatic monologue is a narrative spoken by a single character and amplified by his comments on the story. So this is important. So he makes comments. He doesn't just describe what's going on in the speaker's life, but he comments, so we hear his ideas. But the thing is, we can never be sure about whether what the speaker is saying is true or not, because he doesn't present us an objective painting of an objective description of what's going on in his surroundings, but instead he gives his own ideas, his own commentary. So that's why, so the question is, so can we trust him? Can we trust the speaker in the poem? So a thing that's important is that, so he didn't, until 1846, he didn't write any poetry. So he wrote mostly plays. And another interesting thing is that he wasn't a very famous poet until very late in his life, and the poems or the plays that he wrote were not really liked by many people, because the problem was that he used a very strange language when he's describing what in his literary works. Okay, so when he was 34 years old, he married Elizabeth Barrett. I'm sure you remember her from our classes in the first week. I mean, we read two poems by her, The Cry of the Children and The Runaway Slave at Pilgrim's Point. So Robert Browning married Elizabeth Barrett. So again, I think I have told you this before. So Elizabeth Barrett's father was a very strict person, and he didn't want his daughter to marry anybody. So they first started sending each other letters about poetry, because they both were artists at the time. So they started commenting on each other's poems, and so they began sending each other letters, and then they fell in love. And then Robert Browning started visiting Elizabeth Barrett's house, and in 1846 they secretly married and ran away to Italy, to Pisa actually. And Elizabeth Barrett's father was very angry with that, and he never forgave his daughter, or he didn't speak to her anymore. So in 1861, Elizabeth Browning dies, and then he has to return to London with his son. And he becomes a very sociable person all of a sudden. After he loses his wife, he becomes a very sociable person. He enters high society, and he enters literary circles, and he makes many friends there. He becomes a wanted man, actually, among rich and cultured people. So this is also interesting about his life. And another thing is that his poems are difficult to relate to the age in which they were written. So what do I mean by that? I mean, when you look at our poems, for example, My Last Duchess, you will notice that it takes place in Renaissance Italy. But this guy, Robert Browning, is from he has lived in Victorian age. So, or another one, the Soliloquy at the Spanish Cloister. Again, so this poem also takes place in a medieval Spanish monastery. So it's very strange that he writes about these things. Or Porphyria's Lover. Porphyria's Lover is about a love story between. It's a kind of a mysterious love story, let's say. So they don't. His poems are not about. His poems do not take place at the time when he lived. Okay, so that's basically his life. And so let's start talking about his poems in more detail. Okay, so let's start with Porphyria's Lover. Porphyria's Lover. The rain set early into night. The sullen wind was soon awake. It tore the elm tops down for spite and did its worst to vex the lake. So when we start reading this poem, even in the first stanza, we have an interesting word here, spite. Spite means envy. So the poet, or let's say the speaker, the owner of this dramatic monologue, says that the rain and the wind tore the elm tops down for spite. So elm is a tree, is a type of tree. So he says that the wind began destroying or the trees out of spite, out of envy. So why would wind do that? I mean, I think I think it's just a point that the poet makes us to show us that the speaker is kind of a paranoid person. So this is interesting. The rain set early into night. The sullen wind was soon awake. It tore the elm tops down for spite and did its worst to vex the lake. I listened with heart fit to break when glided in Porphyria straight. She shut the cold out and the storm and kneeled and made the cheerless grate blaze up and all the cottage warm, which done she rose and from her form withdrew the dripping cloak and shawl and laid her soiled gloves by, untied her head and let the damp hair fall. Okay, so what he does, what the speaker does here basically is that he is setting the scene for us. So we can sense that we can see that the scenery, the setting is a place which is not quite close to a city. So it's probably more in nature. Because there's a lake and there's probably a forest, and they are in a cottage, they are in a small hut, and he's waiting for his lover, whose name is Porphyria, and he, in line 5, he says, I listened with a heart fit to break when gliding Porphyria straight. So he is anxious at this moment. So she shut the cold out and the storm. So the weather is also bad, and she begins to remove her clothing one by one. Okay, there's an interesting word here. Soiled glows. Soiled glows. Soiled means dirty. Something which was clean before, but now it's dirty. So this could also be a hint as well for the events or about the poet's mindset. So he thinks that her clothes are soiled, are dirty. It could mean it could refer to a kind of moral dirtiness, maybe, on Porphyria's part. And last, she sat down by my side and called me. When no voice replied, she put my arm about her waist and made her smooth white shoulder bare and all her yellow hair displaced, and stooping made my cheek lie there and spread over all her yellow hair. So at this part in the poem, you can see that the speaker is very passive. He doesn't talk, he doesn't reply her, he doesn't move, he just stands there, or he just sits there. And on the contrary, Porphyria is active. So she barges in the cottage, and then she removes her clothing, and then she sits next to him, and she talks to him. So the activity at this part belongs to Porphyria, and inactivity and passivity belongs to the speaker. And stooping made my cheek lie there. So she makes his cheek lie there. So she probably pulls his head on her face and spread over all her yellow hair, murmuring how she loved me, she too weak for all her heart's endeavor to set its struggling passion free from pride and vainer ties, dissever and give herself to me forever. Okay, so we have here a woman who is meeting her lover in secret in a cottage in nature, and she says, she murmurs how she loves him. So she doesn't, again, the word choice here is important, I think. So she murmurs, so she says that in a very silent way. So she doesn't quite want, maybe he means that, maybe the speaker tries to say that she wants to keep this love affair a secret. But she's too weak. However she wants, I mean, for all her heart's endeavor, whatever, however, how hard she tries, she cannot break free from pride, and she cannot dissever, or she cannot cut her vain ties. So he thinks that she is prideful, and she cannot cut her vainer ties. Vain means vanity. Vanity actually refers to rich people here. So we can maybe we can say here that there is a class difference between these two characters. So she belongs to the high class, but he belongs to a lower class, and therefore she is prideful in his opinion, and she is unable to cut contact with her rich friends, and she cannot give herself to him freely or forever. But passion sometimes would prevail, nor could tonight's gay feast restrain a sudden thought of one so pale for love of her, and all in vain. So she was come through wind and rain. So before visiting him, she was in a gay feast. She was in a happy meal with me, probably with her rich friends. But then suddenly she began thinking about her lover, this guy, the speaker, and she left the feast, left the occasion in a quick way, in a quick manner, and then she decided to meet him. So she was come through wind and rain. Be sure I looked up at her eyes, happy and proud. At last I knew Porphyria worshipped me. Surprise made my heart swell, and still it grew while I debated what to do. So he's debating about what to do. So he's trying to make a decision about what to do with Porphyria, or about what to do with their relationship. So he's just observing him very carefully. So he looks up at her eyes and happy and proud. At last I knew. So he made a decision right now. Porphyria worshipped me. Does she worship him? I mean, in his opinion, she does. But maybe Porphyria just thinks of him as just a flirtation. Maybe we don't know. But he thinks, because I mean, we can't, because in a dramatic monologue we can never be sure of the reality, of the objective reality. These are all his opinions. So in his opinion, Porphyria worships him, and then the moment he understands that Porphyria worships him, Porphyria really loves him, he comes to a decision. That moment, she was mine, fair, perfectly pure and good. I found that thing to do, and all her hair in one long yellow string I wound 3 times her little throat around and strangled her. Okay, so things are turning dark now. She has long blonde hair, and she just takes her hair and he wounds her hair around her throat 3 times. No pain felt she. I'm quite sure she felt no pain. So there's a repetition here. No pain felt she. I'm quite sure she felt no pain. So why do we repeat something? Sometimes we repeat a thing to convince the other side. No, I didn't do that. I didn't do that. Okay. So no pain felt she. I mean, how would he know that she feels no pain? I mean, you are strangling a person, you are murdering a person, and you say that she didn't feel any pain. But it's, again, this is a dramatic monologue, and these are all his opinion. I'm quite sure she felt no pain. Well, in fact, he's not quite sure that she felt no pain, and probably she felt pain. As a shut bud that holds a bee, I warily oped her lids again, loved the blue eyes without a stain. Okay, again, an interesting word here, stain. At the beginning of the poem, we had, where is it? Soiled clothes or dirty clothes, and then here we have eyes without stain. So this guy is obsessed with a moral problem in her. He probably thinks that, can you guess? I mean, what he probably thinks? I think he thinks that she is not faithful to him. Maybe he thinks that she's cheating on him with his other friends, with his rich friends. That's why, out of jealousy, he murders her. And now, at the time, during this strangling, at the time when he is murdering her, he looks at her blue eyes, and he sees that there is no stain in her eyes. So probably she didn't cheat on him after all. And I untightened next the tress about her neck. So tress is hair. Her cheek once more blushed bright beneath my burning kiss. I propped her head up as before, only this time my shoulder bore her head. So at the beginning of the poem, she had put his head on her shoulder, but now her head is on his shoulder, which droops upon it still. The smiling rosy little head, so glad it has its almost will, that all it scorned at once is fled, and I, its love, am gained instead. So this guy is quite crazy because he thinks that she is glad. I mean, that her utmost will, her utmost wish is complete. He thinks that she wanted to be killed. Porphyria's love, she guessed not how her darling one wish would be heard. And thus we sit together now, and all night long we have not stirred, and yet God has not said a word. Okay, so this poem is a murder story. And so the name of the woman is Porphyria. So Porphyria is actually the name of a sickness. It's actually about a blood sickness, and it's a deadly disease. So Porphyria, the people who have Porphyria have a problem in their blood, and they look very, very pale. Their skin is quite white, very pale, and they usually die. Earlier than expected. So all her descriptions actually refer to her white skin, blonde hair, things like that. So there might be a connection between her name and the disease, actually. So that's what this poem might be about. And last line, and yet God has not said a word, is also quite mysterious. Maybe you can think about it. Why does he involve God at the end of the poem? So I just murdered her, and God has not said a word. So that's interesting. You can think about it. Okay, we can talk about our next poem. Soliloquy of the Spanish Cloister. Grrr, there go my heart's abhorrence. Water your damned flower pots, do. If hate killed man, brother Lawrence, God's blood would not mine kill you. What? Your myrtle bush wants trimming? Oh, that rose has prior claims, needs its leaden vase filled brimming. Hell dry you up with its flames. So, this poem takes place in a medieval monastery, and our speaker is one of the monks, and he has maybe we can say a rival or somebody who hates in the same monastery, Brother Lawrence, and he says, there go my heart's abhorrence. So as we are reading this poem, we can see how the events unfold in front of the speaker's eyes. Okay, so he's in line 5 through 8. He is actually just imitating Brother Lawrence. He's speaking to us, but he's imitating Brother Lawrence. What? Your myrtle bush wants trimming. So these are the things that Brother Lawrence says, actually. He says, my myrtle bush wants trimming. Oh, that rose has prior claims. Blah, blah, blah. So hell dry you up with its flames. So we are left, the audience, us, we are left wondering why the speaker hates Brother Lawrence so much. Maybe we can get an answer later on in the poem. At the meal, we sit together. Salve tibi, I must hear. Wise talk of the kind of weather, sort of season, time of year. Not a plenteous cork crop, scarcely there we hope oak galls, I doubt. What's the Latin name for parsley? What's the Greek name for swine snout? Okay, so they are at the meal. So think of these individual stanzas like sketches or different scenes in a play, in drama. So in the second stanza, they are at the meal, sitting together, and the words in italics, like such as salve tibi, or these parts, not a plenteous crop scarcely. These parts are actually spoken by Brother Lawrence. So whenever you see a part in italics, know that Brother Lawrence is actually talking. So Brother Lawrence says some things about the meal that they're having, and at one point in their conversation, Brother Lawrence asks, "Oh, what's the Latin name for parsley?" So parsley is a kind of vegetable, and he doesn't say, our speaker doesn't say anything, he doesn't answer him, but he thinks, what's the Greek name for swine snout? So he's making fun of him in his own mind. We will have our platter burnished, laid with care on our own shelf. With a fire new spoon we're furnished, and a goblet for ourselves, rinsed like something sacrificial, ere 'tis fit to touch our chaps, marked with L for our initial. Haha, there his lily snaps. So again, the speaker is continuing, he's keeping on presenting us with different scenes of the life in the monastery. And here in the last line, haha, there his lily snaps, he actually, the part in the parentheses actually refer to the speaker's own thoughts again. So he has had an accident, his lily has snapped, it has broken. And he laughs, the speaker actually laughs. Saint, forsooth, while brown Dolores squats outside the convent bank with Sanchicha telling stories, steeping tresses in the tank, blue-black, lustrous, thick like horse hairs. Can't I see his dead eye glow, bright as it were a Barbary corsair's? That is, if he had let it show. When he finishes refection, knife and fork he never lays crosswise, to my recollection, as I do in Jesus' praise. I, the Trinity illustrate, drinking watered orange pulp in 3 sips, the Aryans frustrate, while he drains his at one gulp. So you see in these 2 stanzas, in stanza 4 and stanza 5 and stanza 3, actually, you can see how the speaker is annoyed with Brother Lawrence over very trivial things, very unimportant things. For example, when Brother Lawrence finishes his meal, he doesn't lay his knife and fork crosswise. Okay, so that bothers him. That bothers our speaker. And when he drinks orange pulp, he is obsessed. I mean, our speaker is obsessed over the number of sips that Brother Lawrence uses. So these are all very unimportant things, but they all make they all make our speaker very angry. Oh, those melons! If he is able, we are to have a feast. So nice. One goes to the abbot's table. All of us get each a slice. How go on your flowers? None double? Not one fruit sort can you spy? Strange. And I too, at such trouble, keep them close-nipped on the sly. So Brother Lawrence is growing some vegetables, some melons, some fruit, and they have ripened, and they are going to have a feast. They are going to eat them, and one of those melons, as a whole, goes to the abbot's table. The abbot is the head of the monastery, and all of us get each a slice. So a whole melon goes to the abbot, to a single person, but all the other brothers, all the other monks, they get only just a slice. And that probably also makes our speaker angry, because the speaker thinks that Brother Lawrence is actually favoring the abbot. So he is trying to make the abbot happy, and he's jealous. How go on your flowers? None double. Okay, so Brother Lawrence is also gardening, and he is growing some flowers, and the speaker asks, none double? So there are no double flowers? I mean, they haven't grown very well? Oh, strange. And I too, at such trouble, keep them close-nipped on the sly. Close-nipped on the sly. Sly means secretly. Close-nipped is a process. Nipping is a process where you cut the dead parts of a flower so that the rest of the flower, it can grow more beautiful and more healthy. So he cuts Brother Lawrence's fruit secretly in order to bother him. There's a great text in Galatians. Galatians is a part of the Bible. There's a great text in Galatians. Once you trip on it, entails 29 distinct damnations. One's sure if another fails. If I trip him, just a dying, sure of heaven as sure can be, spin him round and send him flying off to hell, a Manichae. So Manichae is a religion. It's not, I mean, it's outside of Christianity. Anyway, so now at the seventh stanza, we can see that the speaker is growing even more angry with him, because now he is making even crazier plans. So what is this plan? So he says that there's a text in the Galatians, in this part of the Bible, there's a short passage. Once you trip on it, I mean, if you see it, entails 29 distinct damnations. So there are certain sins that you might commit, and if you commit just one of them, you will definitely go to hell. So what the speaker is trying to do here is that he is trying to trick Brother Lawrence into committing one of those sins so that he can go to hell. We're still not sure. I mean, we still don't know why the speaker is so angry with Brother Lawrence. We don't. Or my scrupulous French novel on grey paper with blunt type. Simply glance at it, you grovel, hand and food in Belial's gripe. If I double down its pages at the woeful 16th print, when he gathers his green gages, perceive and slip it in it. Okay, now things are getting more out of hand. The speaker is here, so scrupulous means morally corrupt. French novel. French novel is like a scrupulous French novel actually refers to a pornographic novel. Okay, so there is a pornographic French novel written on gray paper with blunt type, so it's easier to read. Simply glance at it. So just look at it, and you are in devil's hands. Okay. So the speaker says there is a pornographic French novel, and it's written with very big letters, and just have a look at it. I mean, unintentionally, and you are sure to go to hell. If I double down his pages at the woeful 16th print, when he gathers his green gages, perceive and slip it in it. So he's trying to, the speaker is trying to make Brother Lawrence read this pornographic novel accidentally, so that he hopes he is going to go to hell. Brother Lawrence is going to go to hell. Or there is Satan. One might venture, pledge one's soul to him, yet leave such a flow in the indenture as he'd miss till past retrieve, blasted lay that rose Akakia we are so proud of. Okay, so, or if all those failed, I mean, if I'm unsuccessful in sending him to hell with my plans in stanza 7 and stanza 8, then my last resort, my last idea is, my final idea is to make a pact with devil, with Satan. Maybe I can, I mean, here he is turning on himself. Here the speaker is turning on himself. So the last resort is that I can make a deal with Satan, so that Satan is going to, so that Satan can trick him. Satan can trick Brother Lawrence. And because Satan is cleverer than me, I mean, he can find a better way, he can find an easier way, he can find a surer way to send Lawrence into hell. But he thinks himself, I mean, the speaker thinks that he is very clever, because he says one might venture, pledge one's soul to him. So he is planning to pledge his soul to Satan, yet leave such a flow in the indenture. Indenture is kind of an agreement. So, but I can leave a flow in the agreement. So, and so as he had missed till past retrieve, so Satan, he thinks he can trick Satan, because he thinks that he can write the agreement with Satan in such a way that there is a loophole in the agreement, so that when he dies, when the speaker dies, he thinks Satan will be unable to claim his soul. So this agreement with Satan thing is a recurring motif in literature. You can think about many Renaissance plays, for example, where the character, for example, Faust, Goethe's Faust, for example, where the character makes an agreement with devil, and devil grants him his wishes, but in return, when you die, you go to hell. So he plans to make such an agreement with Satan. So the Satan is going to help him send Brother Lawrence to hell, and in return, the speaker agrees to go to hell. But he, like I've said, he thinks himself clever. He thinks he plans to trick Satan with the wording of the agreement. And the poem starts in a very cryptic way. Hi, Zai, Hein, Saint, there is Vespers, Plena Gratia, Ave Virgo, Grr, you swine. So this part, this is, I mean, what do you think about this part? I mean, I think this part actually shows us that at the end of the poem, the speaker has totally lost his mind, because he's just talking gibberish. Okay, these things do not make any sense. All right, so this is also an example of dramatic monologue, Soliloquy of the Spanish Cloister. So you have these expressions such as grr, so he's angry, or he's talking to himself, he's laughing, haha, or he's just mumbling to himself, he's just talking gibberish. So that is, if you had let it show, for example, here. So he is talking to himself all the time, and he's commenting on the events. Again, this is part of dramatic monologue. He's not only presenting us an objective portrait of the events, but he's commenting on them. And here the comment is, his comments are just going from sane to crazy to insane. Okay, right, so that is Soliloquy of the Spanish Cloister. Now we can talk about My Last Duchess. My Last Duchess, Ferrara. Okay, so Ferrara is a place in Italy. Anyway, so among the three poems that we are reading today, My Last Duchess is probably the most famous one, by the way, and the best known poem. And also, I think this is the most successful one, in my opinion. So, My Last Duchess, Ferrara. That's my last Duchess, painted on the wall, looking as if she were alive, Okay, so our speaker is looking at a painting on the wall, and on the wall there's the painting of a woman, the Duchess. So we can say that the speaker is the Duke, her husband, and he says, my last Duchess. So last could mean, I mean, the last, as you know, but also it could mean, it also implies that this woman is dead. Late has this meaning, late, late, so means dead. That's my last Duchess, painted on the wall, looking as if she were alive, so she is dead. I call that piece a wonder. Now, Fra Pandolf's hands worked busily a day. So Fra Pandolf is brother Pandolf. Brother means a monk. Monk Pandolf painted this painting. Worked busily a day, and there she stands. Will it please you sit and look at her? Okay. Will it please you sit and look at her? So there is a person in front of or next to the speaker. He's talking to someone actually this time. Will it please you sit and look at her? I said Fra Pandolf by design, for never read strangers like you that pictured countenance, the depth and passion of its earnest glance, but to myself they turned, since none puts by the curtain I have drawn for you, but I. So the speaker is usually hiding the portrait of the Duchess behind the curtain, and he says, I'm opening the curtains for you specifically, so that you will be able to see the painting of my dead wife. And seemed as they would ask me, if they durst, how such a glance came there, so not the first are you to turn and ask thus. So he actually, the person next to the speaker did not ask anything actually, but he's just thinking that this person has a question. So let me answer you, he says. Sir, it was not her husband's presence only called that spot of joy into Duchess's cheek. So in this painting we can see, or maybe just the speaker can see, that there is a spot of joy in Duchess's cheek. So perhaps Fra Pandolf chanced to say, her mantle laps over my lady's wrist too much, or paint must never hope to reproduce the faint half flush that dies along her throat. So he is just, the speaker is imagining the process or the day when Fra Pandolf painted this picture, and he has seen that her lady, the Duchess, is smiling too much. So there is a spot of joy in the cheek of the Duchess, and he's suspicious. So why was she smiling so much as the Duchess was posing for the painting? And he is just imagining, maybe the painter said things like these: her mantle laps over my lady's wrist too much. So paint must never. So he says the painter was complimenting my wife. That's why she got happy and she smiled. So this guy is very obsessed and possessive about his wife. So he thinks that his wife was flirting with the painter. Such stuff was courtesy, she thought, and cause enough for calling up that spot of joy. So he is thinking about his wife. He thinks that his wife was thinking that the painter was being courteous or polite, and she became happy. She had a heart, the wife, he thinks, she had a heart, how shall I say, too soon made glad, too easily impressed. So he thinks that his wife was too easily impressed by the attention of other men. So you can see here that gradually the Duke of Ferrara, is actually getting angry with his wife. She liked whatever she looked on, and her looks went everywhere. So this is a threatening sentence, actually. He says that whatever she looked on, or whomever she looked on, she liked them. So we can say that the Duke is a very jealous husband, and her looks went everywhere. So she was looking everywhere. But do we know that she was looking everywhere? Do we know that his wife was flirting with everybody? Probably not. The husband was just making things up. He was very jealous, unnecessarily jealous. Sir, it was all one. Sir here refers to the person next to the Duke that day. The other guy who is looking at the painting right now. Sir, it was all one. My favor at her breast. So my gift at her breast refers to probably a piece of jewelry, maybe a necklace that the Duke gave her. My favor at her breast, the dropping of the daylight in the west, the bough of cherries some officious fool broke in the orchard for her, the white mule she rode with round the terrace, all and each would draw from her alike the approving speech, or blush at least. So he is actually criticizing his wife here, his dead wife here, because earlier we saw that wherever she looked, or whatever she looked at, she liked it, he says, and it was all the same for her. If I gave her a gift, she was happy. If she saw the daylight in the west, if she saw the sun, she was happy. If somebody gave her some flowers, she was happy. She was happy when she saw the white mule that she rode on. And all and each would draw from her alike the approving speech. So she approved of everything. She liked everything. So he mentions his gift, his favor, the necklace. He thinks that his gift must be the biggest source of happiness for her. But later on he mentions very trivial things, and he says he took all of these things equally. My gift was not for her. My gift was not superior. So that makes him angry, or made him angry. She thanked men good, but thanked somehow, I know not how, as if she ranked my gift of a 900 years old name with anybody's gift. So his gift of 900 years old name is actually, you can guess that it refers to his nobility. So I took her as my wife, and I gave her my surname, and this should have been a great source of honor and great source of happiness for her. But she didn't care about being married to me. She didn't think that I was giving her a favor. I was making her a favor by marrying with her. So she took my gift, she took my surname as happily as any other gift. So you can see that he expected his wife to be thankful to him, but she was not, in his opinion. Who would stoop to blame this sort of trifling? Even had you skill in speech, which I have not, to make your will quite clear to such an one, and say, just this or that in you disgusts me. Here you miss, or there exceed the mark, as if she let herself be lessoned so, nor plainly set her wits to yours, forsooth, and made excuse, even then would be some stooping. and I choose never to stoop. Okay, so here he is talking about the process that he really gets angry with her because he thinks that he was unable to teach her or he was unable to make himself clear to her about his unhappiness with his wife. So I told her to be careful, but she did not listen to me. Oh, sir, she smiled, no doubt, whenever I passed her. So whenever I was around her, she smiled at me. I mean, there was no problem. But who passed without much the same smile? So he doesn't feel himself special. The Duke doesn't feel himself special. Whenever I passed near her, she was happy. But whenever anyone or any man passed near her, she was happy as well. So I wasn't special. So you see how jealous he is. This grew. So things became more, these things became more and more common. And I gave comments. Then all smiles stopped together. Okay, so this is the climax of the poem. So he gave some comments to his men, maybe, and all smiles stopped together. So what happened to her? She died, actually. She stopped smiling forever. He gave his orders to his men and they killed her. There she stands, as if alive. So there she stands refers to the painting. She stands in the painting as if alive. So it's a very realistic painting. Will it please you rise? We'll meet the company below then. Okay, so the guest, the Duke's guest is next to him still, and he orders him to rise, to get up, to stand up. And we'll meet the company below then. So there are other people in the palace, in the Duke's palace, and we are going to meet them, he says. I repeat, the Count, your master's known munificence is ample warrant that no just pretense of mine for dowry will be disallowed. Okay, dowry is, you know, is the money that the bride, that the family of the woman actually pays to the husband. So in in the Middle Ages and in the Renaissance, when a woman met, when a couple married, actually the wife's family paid some money to the husband. Okay, and that's called the dowry. In Turkish we have it as başlık parası, but the başlık parası here, the dowry here, is actually paid by the wife and not the husband. So whenever he marries a woman, this Duke marries a woman, he gets some money. Okay, so you can see here in the first stanza, he says, my last Duchess. Okay, so he has had many other duchesses previously. So that's not his only wife. That was not his only wife. So what do you think happened to his other wives? It's an interesting question. So he probably killed all his previous wives so that he can marry another time and so that he can receive money from the families of his wives for the wedding. Okay. The Count, your master's known munificence. Okay, the Count, your master. So this, we are now getting a hint about the identity of the guest, of the person, of the second person who is viewing this painting of the Duchess. So your master is the Count. So this guy is probably an envoy, an ambassador for the Count, okay? So there is a new wedding plan going on. The Duke, the speaker of this poem, is planning a new marriage with the daughter of a count, and he is now talking to a man, to an ambassador of the count. Though his fair daughter's self, as I avowed at starting, is my object. Okay, so what he basically, let me paraphrase this part. What he basically says here is that I know that I'm sure of your count's generosity. Munificence means generosity. So your count's generosity is well known, and my request of a dowry will not be refused. I'm going to meet his daughter, and I know that he is going to pay me well. But his beautiful daughter's self is my primary object. Of course, he says, I'm not interested in the money. I'm not interested in the dowry that I'm going to receive, because my primary concern, my primary concern is the daughter, the beautiful daughter, he says. So we can again sense that he's just lying. He is not interested in this new woman. He is actually more interested in money. Nay, we'll go together down, sir. Okay, this is funny. So we'll go together down, sir. So we can understand here that the ambassador, the guest, is actually trying to run away. Why? Because the Duke is trying to stop him. He probably understood that the Duke has been killing his wives all the time, and he is afraid that this Duke is crazy, and he probably is concerned, the guest is concerned about his own life, so he's trying to go down the stairs by himself, but the Duke stops him. No, we'll go together down, sir. Notice Neptune, though, taming a seahorse, thought a rarity, which Klaus of Innsbruck cast in bronze for me. Okay, so he is still he is not even listening to the guest. He shows him another piece of art. Notice Neptune taming a seahorse. This is probably a sculpture of Neptune, the sea goddess, the Roman sea goddess, taming a seahorse. So we might understand here that Neptune might represent himself, the sea goddess. It represents the Duke, and the seahorse is a woman, maybe, and he is taming her. So he is domesticating the seahorse. So he is controlling the seahorse, just as the Duke has been trying to control and tame and domesticate his wives so far. So he mentions Klaus of Innsbruck. This is probably another artist. So he mentions two artists so far, Fra Pandolf, the painter who painted his wife, and Klaus of Innsbruck. So the Duke is trying to boast about himself. He's trying to boast about his wealth, his money, his richness. Okay, so you can see here that this poem is about a jealous husband. There might be actually different interpretations of this poem. You might interpret it as somebody that you might interpret the Duke as somebody who is either mad, overly jealous, and not very sure about himself, his masculinity, and trying to control his wives, and when unsuccessful, he kills them. Or you might interpret that this Duke, is actually only after money, because as many times as he marries, the more money, the more dowry he is going to receive from his fathers-in-law. Okay, so maybe he is just making up some excuses about his wives so that he can get rid of them and marry another time. All right, so we have read 3 poems. We have studied 3 poems from Robert Browning today. Porphyria's Lover, Soliloquy of the Spanish Cloister, and My Last Duchess, all of which actually are examples of dramatic monologue. So if you have any questions for me about this class, you can send me an email and I will try to answer them. All right, so that's it for today.